All right, y'all, here we go. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, how in the world are you dropping this video right after the Warriors take care of the Clippers? You must have made it ahead of time. Yeah, I did a little Klay Thompson, right? I had a little Klay in me, like kind of assuming what was going to happen. Forgive me. So after they've taken care of business here Friday night, we can look ahead to what we've all been waiting for, right? This is what we've all been waiting for. And instead of going into like an individual, this guy versus this guy, we've seen this matchup so many times. We know the players involved. We know the matchups. I'm going to provide Warrior fans and hopefully the Warriors organization, if you're listening, these are the keys to beating the 2019 Houston Rockets.
Penetration. Pause. Dribble handoffs, pick and roll slips, and attack downhill. I noticed because of the switching, if you can get the ball in motion, dribble handoffs in particular, the switching Rockets defenders kind of plant their feet and they're not great laterally, and you're able to attack them going downhill. Here's Rubio again. It's a slip and there's a bit of hesitation whether they're gonna switch or not, and that gives Rubio the angle to get to the cup. Here's another slip right there. You see the two defenders looking at each other. Are we switching or are you staying with Gobert? That moment of hesitation is enough time for a good penetrator to get to the cup. Now, because they like to play the passing lanes, you have to make them pay for it. Harden went for the steal, immediately attacked downhill, and they're not able to recover with very little rim protection. Eric Gordon, just a little bit of a brush screen. He's not moving as well laterally as I remember him in the past. And then Austin Rivers in particular, I think is someone you need to attack downhill every time. Austin Rivers has put on a bit of weight and he just doesn't move laterally like he once did. Now, he's good at contesting jumpers because of his length, but he's susceptible to foul trouble and he doesn't move as well laterally. Attack downhill, be aggressive. Don't overpass, something the Warriors are guilty of often, right? Now, Houston, because they're not great individual defenders, they rely on their team defense anticipating and jumping passing lanes. So if you have your man beat or you've compromised the defense, look to score yourself before making the extra pass, because they're sitting on those passing lanes much more than actually trying to protect the rim. Not only will that cut down on turnovers, but it will also most likely put the Rockets in foul trouble. Defending Harden and Chris Paul. Because, hey, that's what it ultimately boils down to, right? From a Big's perspective, I really like what Derek Favors did. He wasn't necessarily trying to block their shots. He was just making their shots at the rim more difficult. They're so adept at drawing contact in the whistle, you have to play the verticality game and just make it a tough shot. Don't go for the block. Just make it a difficult one, because half the time they're not necessarily looking to finish the basket, they're looking for the whistle. Again, on the perimeter, they're looking to exploit you. You saw Favors set his feet and try to hold his ground. They're going to slam their shoulder and hit the whiplash move on you every time if they see you plant your feet. You have to stay moving laterally on the perimeter, especially if you're a big. There's an old adage in sports, teams do not like done to them what they do to others. Watch Crowder try to draw the cheap one on the shoulder charge from Harden, and he ends up paying the cost and giving up the 3 ball. But you're gonna have to try to draw some cheap ones back at these two. They're gonna try to isolate Steph Curry on Harden as much as possible. Watch Donovan Mitchell get the wind knocked out of him from the little shoulder knock from Harden. If Steph Curry is willing to sell it, I have no doubt he's going to get the benefit of the doubt on some of those calls. But ultimately, you can't keep showing Harden the same look. O'Neal does a great job on this possession, just guarding him straight up late in the clock. And Harden wasn't ready for it, right? He was expecting that doggy-style gimmick defense. But if you do send him left, that's where all the options open up for him. The lob, the floater, the dunk, the step back, it's all there. Now, Chris Paul, one thing I've noticed, look at him get the ISO switch on Ingles. Usually he'd go right to work on somebody like that, but he's been much more selective in games as far as his isolation game goes. But ultimately, down the stretch, all the talks about Harden, the real leader is Chris Paul. He is the true alpha of this team. When things get close towards the end of games, look for him to get much more aggressive offensively. He's a lot less likely to pass the ball, and he's going to look for his. You've got to be cognizant of that. Now, on to who many believe is the X factor for these Rockets, Eric Gordon. You've got to stay down on him when you're contesting and closing out. He loves to hit you with a quick pump fake and then a quick release three ball. He's a weak side specialist. He's used to guys coming running over and contesting late, so he's mastered the pump fake. He's got a low trajectory on his shot, but a high arc. So when you do close out, you want to suck up the space. You're going to see Rubio try to contest it vertically, but he's better off contesting the space. Running, not leaving your feet, and sucking up his space in his shot pocket because you're not going to block his three ball. Stay down and stay disciplined with EG. PJ Tucker, only the corners. Now, I don't feel like this is a secret, but seeing as how Utah defended him, I feel like we need a reminder. PJ Tucker only likes to shoot the corner three. Look at him here above the breaks. That's why they don't run a lot of high pick and roll with him, is he's just not comfortable out there in that space. The shot's a little bit further. Watch him pass this one up and then be forced into it after he gets it back. So sell out completely on Tucker in the corner. Make him put the ball down, try to finish at the rim, or better yet, send him above the breaks where he's not confident at all. Speaking of corner threes, where you can really look to attack is out in transition and running. Because they shoot so many of them, their defense naturally is compromised getting back. And then you combine that with the fact that they play so much ISO basketball, you've got four other offensive guys standing flat-footed. So when it's time to get back, they're flat-footed. They've got to start moving again. So even after a made basket, if you look to push opportunistically, that's not a word, you may score. Another strategy you may see late in games is the Hackapella. Now, Capella shot decently from the line this season, but we all know that can be up and down, especially with big fellas. They lose confidence, they get streaky. And in this Rocket series, he shot 33% from the line. And when I saw him shoot these, I'll show it to you again, it's in about 3 parts. I thought to myself, I would not be confident with him on the line in late game situations. Last but not least, crash the glass. Part of the reason they struggle defensive rebounding wise is because they jump the passing lanes. It's by design. They're always out on the perimeter guarding the three, and that leaves them open to offensive rebounds. Another part is they like to play small. But in the sole game that Utah won, it was Derek Favors who really closed out the game, just killing the Rockets on the offensive glass. Kevon Looney and the others, if they can take advantage and get Golden State's second look three balls, that could ultimately be a huge dagger.
All right, so kind of a quick little breakdown, but these are the holes, the flaws, and the ways that I see the Warriors can best attack this team. And I don't know if you know my stand on this. I don't really like the predictions. Anything can happen. I'm not in the prediction business. I'm in the opinion business. I'm going to give you details that you don't see anywhere else, right? And my opinion on things. But I can't leave you without a prediction. It's too big of a series. It's too big of a moment. And if you want the breakdowns of each game in this series and every big game moving forward throughout these playoffs, go check my Patreon out. It's definitely worth it. Everybody will co-sign it. A bunch of people in the comments will co-sign it right now. Shout out to y'all, because y'all are allowing me to do this. This YouTube, it ain't happening, right? It ain't happening for me on YouTube. This is more just to check in with y'all and let you know where the real work is being done and where my real quality stuff is being done. But anyway, I'm going to give y'all a prediction. The Golden State Warriors, this is the most vulnerable they've been. 5 years, the fatigue. KD, Draymond, what's wrong with Steph now? Kerr, what's good with the rotations, bro? Pick and roll, right? They're vulnerable. I don't know if this is the year. I've said it myself. But what we also have to take into account, those of you that caught my little quick car video the other day, the Rockets aren't the same team either. And the biggest thing that I point to in this series is Trevor Ariza, or the lack thereof Trevor Ariza in this series. Now, PJ Tucker's a rugged defender, very strong, right? But he doesn't really have the length to bother Durant like Ariza did. If you go back to a year ago in those conference finals, it was Trevor Ariza who really bothered Durant and was kind of the answer for most of that series on him, as well as just his toughness and his leadership. I think can't be spoken enough about his intangibles. And so ultimately, I don't see them having an answer for Kevin Durant, right? Chris Paul, 1 year older. Harden, not exactly a clutch playoff performer. And hey, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm giving you this prediction objectively. We all know I've got my Warrior goggles on, right? So take it for what it's worth. Warriors in 6. I'm out, y'all.
so long it's like alchemy.